Good evening and welcome to another edition of the opening kick on this Labor Day Monday. So if you are joining us, we thank you. We know you're with family, maybe grilling. Hannah ran in from a pickup football game to be a part of it. We know it's an important day for a lot of families. We know football's on the TV. So if you are here with us, we thank you 1,000 times over. And if you're questioning right now, Daniel, why are you wearing a Rooster shirt? Well, it's because my higher IQ panelists are going to be doing victory laps while I eat crow for the rest of the show. So that's why I'm wearing a Rooster shirt. However, Chubbies, if you are watching and you need an under average looking middle-aged man who has horrible football takes that will wear the hell out of your product, hit me after the show. We can do some sponsorship talk. But with that said, I am joined by this apparently much more football savvy crew than myself. We've got one Miss Sign Girl, Bama Sign Girl below us, Hannah Stevens. How are you doing on this Labor Day, Miss Hannah?
Good. What about y'all? I'm feeling pretty good after Saturday.
I'm sure you're like, I'm kind of scared. Like, I'm sure you're like, we're going to get into it. Like, I'm going to be eating Little Crow. Hannah may have made the greatest call in college football history in opening week. And we're going to talk about it. And above her, the man, not the myth, because he's here, legend, Gerald Smoke Dixon of CBS. How are you doing tonight, sir, on this Labor Day?
Hannah, put it down. Not today. No smoking.
Well, guys, we are excited to be here with you on this Labor Day Monday. We are going to talk some college football. We're going to get into our predictions from last week. We're going to get into winners and losers. What did we learn? Maybe some overreactions. But before we do that, we have to thank two very special sponsors to the show. And the first one is none other than the Bryant Museum. Olivia Arnold and the Bryant Museum will be hosting the Bama Standard, an array of panelists across the board this Friday night at the Bryant Museum, 6 p.m. Central. Please come out. It is going to be a banger of a show. We got my man, Mr. Smoke there. Hannah, she's on the fence, may be there, may not. We're going to see what travel from North Alabama has. But we're also going to have Mr. Jake Coker, Landon Collins, Blake Sims, Marvin Constance, always there bringing the heat. Guys, it is going to be an unbelievable show. And, of course, the main man, Mr. Justin Riley, will be there running the P's and Q's. But Bryant Museum, Friday night, 6 p.m., don't miss it. It's going to be one hell of a show. So we'd like to thank those at the Bryant Museum. And, again, specifically Miss Olivia Arnold for all the love she gives to us here at the Bama Standard Network. And I'd like to welcome a new sponsor to the Bama Standard, Limestone Company. Have you ever dreamed of having beautiful natural stone in and around your home? Well, don't settle for subpar materials. Check out Limestone Company's selection of natural stone products to meet all of your project needs. Limestone is located in Aniana, Alabama, and is one of the oldest, most trusted stone sources in the state. So contact them today and tell them we sent you using the promo code the Bama Standard, and you will get 10% off your first purchase. That's 10% off a purchase of stone. Hey, sounds like a pretty good deal. We want to thank Limestone for hopping on board. And with that said, man, let's get into it. Let's hit that like and subscribe if you're in here. Again, we thank you. Hit that like and subscribe. But let's go into the week one recap. I mean, I think somebody below said I'm a Hannah Stevens believer. I'm just going to turn this over to you. What happened this weekend, Miss Hannah?
Well, listen, I think this is what you have to know about week one college football. It's always amazing. That's why we look forward to it, because teams get to showcase themselves. Maybe they underperform or maybe they overperform. I think Vanderbilt did what I think this team's been capable of for a very long time. And they show that they are capable of winning. I think they've been on the cusp of that for a very long time. Like, they've kind of been on the edge. And statistically, you look at this team and you know they're capable of winning. So I went with them for more than one reason, but I'm glad I did, because I think they showcased. Did they let up at the end a little bit? Yes, obviously they had a little bit of a comeback issue, but they won. And in week one college football, that's all you need to get your season rolling in the right direction, is a win. Vanderbilt got it. And honestly, I think they'll be 2-0 after this Saturday. I know that we're going to talk about it on Friday, but yeah, they're going in the right direction.
Absolutely. Look, man, they haven't won against an FBS program on open a day since 2005.
That's right.
I've got
That's
a
right.
college that wasn't alive when that happened. So look,
Yep.
man, much love to Vanderbilt and the way they played. Their quarterback balled out.
Yeah.
And I think my man Smoke, he's representing Anchor.
Yeah. Look at him over there.
You've got some connections to that program, Smoke.
Yeah.
So what were your thoughts on seeing that really kind of big upset unfold?
You know what? I'm fired up for Clark Lee, the head coach over there, and Barton Simmons, the general manager, Kendall Lawson, and all my friends over there, because I worked there for 13 months. Got hired by Barton and Clark when all of us came over there in 2022. Good people. Clark's done an outstanding job of getting that program rolling in the right direction. Barton's doing a good job of getting the right players in there, even though every year people come in there and go portal shopping. That's just showing you how good of a job they've been doing in terms of getting talent in there, developing your talent. And at some point, you can't keep them all. But shout out to those guys for beating Virginia Tech and representing Nashville in the finals. So I should have picked them. Anna, you did. You went with your heart and your mind. You got all of us, man. You should get an A this week in the class.
I appreciate it.
Absolute A+. And look, man, me and Smoke were kind of talking about this before the show. It kind of harkened back to the days of Vandy of old. Now they've never just been a monster, but it was never a fun place to go play.
No,
they would, and it just that kind of reminded me of the '90s versions of Vanderbilt. So it's
I was going to say I went to a game as a kid and we won by I think a field goal. Like it was
Smoke played in that one. Was that
you
the
that one? Yeah.
Oh, I was there. Look, I'll find it in a second. I'll find a picture. Hold on.
So the crazy thing is, Clark, when I was getting interviewed by Clark Lee, my senior year, Clark was a guy that caught the kickoff on the sky kick, and Clark's dad and I was just talking about that when I went over there for one of their camps. And I just don't think that people give Clark Lee enough credit for the job that he's done over there in terms of just changing the mindset of those players and those guys just having pride in what they do. They had a little bit of setback again due to losing good players, but man, what an outstanding job. And again, I will keep on saying it. Clark Lee is a bottom line, hard nose, get after it coach. That's the right fit for Vanderbilt. He's a Vandy man himself.
Absolutely. And hey man, you can't say much more than that. Got to give love.
Got
to give love to Anchor Down, but that's not the only crow I got to eat. I think both of you guys were high on a team from South Florida, and I kind of believed that Florida and Napier would pull it together for that opening game healthy. No. The Hurricanes rolled in and rolled over. That offensive line was dominant. Cam Ward looked fast, slow, matrixy. I don't know what the hell he was doing, but Florida couldn't stop it. But more than anything, my man Smoke broke that. If you go back to last week and watch his breakdown of this game and why Miami was going to dominate it, buddy, you killed it.
Well, the thing that when you look at Cam Ward is playing at a pace of, like you just said, matrix-like.
Yep.
And Roman Harper and I just was on a call a couple of seconds ago, just checking in, just talking about the game, because I went back and watched it about 3 times. And when you see an athlete playing at his pace, his speed and controlling the game, they got it. You're in trouble.
Right.
You couldn't speed him up if you want to. You could have tried to rush him, drop 8, throw every exotic blitz that you wanted to throw at him. But he's played a ton of football. He's seen everything that you've ran. Getting a new defensive coordinator in to call the defense didn't help at all. And flat out, Florida does not have the horses to run in the race with the Miami Hurricane.
That's right.
Miami Hurricanes is flat out better than them. Personnel-wise, not even close. They beat them up front on the edges in terms of skill players. Miami did an awesome job in terms of their personnel office, addressing their needs in the offseason. You saw them on defense be able to roll 10, 11, 12 defensive linemen at the Florida Gators, beat them up front, and the Florida offensive line is not good enough. And what a great job of getting 2 running backs, Mark Fletcher and Damian Martinez. Maybe Martinez didn't have a great game, but Mark Fletcher Jr. came in, and he was dynamite. And X in the slot, they didn't have an answer for him.
Can I add one thing to that?
Before you do, Hannah, because
Yeah.
I want to get your take on the game because you also felt good about Miami. But before you do, Mr. Jimmy Clay, who I think refers to Hannah as Firecracker Hannah, he loves him some Hannah, but he loves him some Alabama. Guys, if y'all don't know, Jimmy Clay is how you should fan. He loves everything about Alabama and loves it with the purest of hearts. Jimmy Clay, you are what Alabama fans should be and are supposed to be. Thank you so much for the $20 super chat. We love you, Mr. Clay. With that said, Hannah, absolutely. Please give us your take. I want to know your thoughts on the game.
Well, I agree with everything Smoke said. And I think one thing I'm going to reiterate about Cam Ward is that he's a player that he's so good at recovering. And so many quarterbacks are poor at that. They make a mistake, and I think probably for me, the last player I've seen had this composure was Tua Tagovailoa, because he would make a mistake. You didn't read it on his face. And that's one thing that really messes up defenses, especially for the Gators, is they weren't able to, eat upon his emotions. They didn't know he had a poker face. And so he would make a mistake. Obviously, throw an interception, he's able to recompose himself. And for me, that's something you got to look for in a quarterback. And I agree, the speed, his field vision, he is an incredible player. But for me, getting to see him stay composed even when he messes up, that's one thing I think that really because you look at the second half, come back in the third quarter, score 14 more points. And Florida scores in the fourth quarter. But for me, Cam Ward did a fantastic job, going into the swamp and putting on a show.
And absolutely, y'all both nailed it. And to kind of that was a great comparison there, Hannah. I love the Tua and what you were saying, Smoke. They couldn't speed him up. You could tell he was processing the game at a different level than anybody on that football field. And when you have that, and you got receivers that can make plays the way Miami's were, and then an offensive line that can road grade. Look, ACC, watch out. Miami's going to be hell on wheels in that conference.
That's right.
Moving on quickly, though, because we got a lot to cover tonight and a short time to do it. Everybody wants to get back to their cooking and football games. But we did touch on the West Virginia Penn State. I thought that was an upset special. Good Lord. You know what that game reminded me of? It reminded me of older Ole Miss teams when they had some good offensive weapons, but didn't have the physicality to beat kind of a bigger team like Georgia or Alabama or LSU or whatever in years gone by. And where they hung with them through punches, the running backs and the offensive line just took over for Penn State, and West Virginia just couldn't keep up. And after the rain delay, it was just, they just came out flat. Again, I love the upset special. I loved what Green thought he could do at Morgantown. I think a lot of people kind of agreed with it. But, man, give Penn State credit, give James Franklin credit. They came out and they kind of flexed. They bullied them a little bit. Is that kind of what you guys saw? I'll start with you on this one, Hannah.
Yeah, it's kind of frustrating because, in the first quarter, there was nothing going on, right? It's kind of like a defensive battle. The offenses were kind of off sync. And, I think when you have a quarterback like Alar, he is really good at getting things going. And it takes one play for Penn State to kind of get that rhythm going. And I think that's all it took. And I think West Virginia, I was surprised. I'll be honest. I was very surprised at how poorly they did trying defensively. It was pathetic, to say the best words. But I think this actually, and if I'm being completely honest, I think this Penn State team may be the best Penn State team all around that we've seen the last decade. Because you're looking at a team, Penn State's always kind of had that offensive threat, but defensively, I think they're a team that could really play some big games and maybe make it to the playoff and actually have a chance to win a game in the playoffs, because the Penn State teams we've seen before, they get into SEC matchups and they lose defensively. But this defensive unit may actually be able to put on a show. So for me, I was impressed with Penn State, disappointed West Virginia. I did pick West Virginia to win, and I own it, and it's okay. That was my one mess up all weekend.
Hey,
thank you, Wolverines.
After the calls you made this weekend, we're going to give you one. We're going to give you one. But Smoke, did you see it any differently?
No, I didn't. Like I said on Friday, I didn't think this was going to be a game. One thing that I have to give James Franklin credit, he went back and retooled his entire offensive staff, defensive staff, and special team. We spoke on it on Friday. The difference in Penn State is their offensive coordinator, Andy Kolenecki. Mm-hmm. What he's done with Drew in terms of unlocking them and giving them easy access throws, quarterback-friendly offense, and he's not having them go out there and be a neurosurgeon.
Yep.
He's allowing him to play football at a pace that he can control. And just being a good play caller, some of the times you take the pressure off of the player of only in trying to be a playmaker, and most quarterbacks aren't.
Yep.
That's the job of a good quarterback coach, good coordinator, to give that quarterback friendly plays, friendly throws, to get that quarterback to play with confidence. Because the confident quarterback now is going to make everybody else play that much better.
Yep.
A good offense and a good defense, the quarterback makes that defense look really good. And on defense, Tom Allen's a superstar. When he was a head coach at Indiana, they did well. But now that he's only focusing on being a defensive coordinator, complete, utterly control of what's going on a defense.
It's great defense.
And now you give James Franklin to do the best thing that he is. He's a CEO. He doesn't have to worry about the offense because he has a superstar calling it. He has a head coach being your defensive coordinator. And Justin Lustig is a very good special team coordinator as well, too. So now you can just sit back and you can now be a head coach, CEO, and only have to make adjustments on about 45 plays during a game. And I think that's the biggest change that you've seen in Penn State. Be able to score. Defenses not feel like they have to go out there and win games solely. And you take the pressure off Drew now, and he just has to be a dealer. He doesn't have to be a superstar quarterback that goes out there and makes everything happen.
When one thing I want to add, I'm not sure many people realize, and you're talking about Tom Allen, is there's quite a defensive coaching tree growing out of Dave Womack, who was the defensive coordinator for Hugh Freeze at Ole Miss in the era where they beat Bama twice. Well, Tom Allen and Kane Womack were both on that staff under. So it's quite a defensive coaching tree that's done really well. That's not. I'm not sure many people. Everybody knows the Saban coaching tree, but I'm not sure many people know this Womack tree. Yeah. You have one more thing, Hannah, before we hop to the last one.
Yeah. Well, let me just say who's the last one going to be?
The USC LSU.
Okay. Well, I can segue. My point can segue to that if you want it to.
No, because we can't segue because our boy Jimmy Clay has hit us up with $30 more. Bryant Museum Friday night. Roll Saban, roll Sports Bama. Jimmy Clay, man, we're going Sizzler tonight, baby. Good Lord, man. You got us rolling. I'm getting the ice cream and the ribeye and everything. And I will let you seg, Hannah, into the LSU game because that was a big one you wanted to talk about. But good Lord, Jimmy Clay, I cannot wait to see you Friday night. Love you, man. I don't have enough words for Jimmy Clay. I'm get some tissues on my roosters. Hannah, go for it.
Well, Smoke said a good point that I want to reiterate because he said that, great play callers like coaches, coordinators, they give their quarterbacks plays to give them confidence. Lincoln Riley did that with Jalen Hurts, and that's really what helped Jalen Hurts develop into a quarterback. Alabama, although we claim him, we did not do a great job developing him, and we have to own that. Lincoln Riley would put him in a position to make quick plays, quick throws that gave him the confidence, and that's something he also did with Miller Moss in USC this Saturday that really helped them win the game. Sure was a close game. I think I called USC. I don't know who else called USC. Yep, Smoke did. But the point I'm making is that's one thing that sets Lincoln Riley apart. And I said in my analysis that Lincoln Riley has a lot of time to prepare and he wants to prove that he can be a coach. And, although it's different conference, so to speak, kind of in a way, because USC is no longer in the Pac-12. But by the way, I'm still getting used to it all. It kind of rubs me the wrong way. I miss the Pac-12. It used to be the Pac-10, all these things. But I just wanted to reiterate that point because it's so true. Because if you give quarterbacks even one play just to get their confidence going, we saw what Miller Moss took off with. And the fact of the matter is they had a kicking issue. They didn't go for an easy field goal. They could have ran it right up the middle. And that's all they need to do to seal the win. But still the deal. But for me, Lincoln Riley is a great coach and example who is really good at giving his quarterbacks plays to being confident. So I wanted to reiterate that. That was a great point, and that's not talked about enough.
Well, and Hannah, it's amazing because you looked at it from the Lincoln Riley side and what he did with Moss, and man, Keon Hudson at wide receiver, boy, that boy is got glue hands. But even more so, you broke down the offensive side. Smoke told us exactly what USC had done to retool their defense, which made a huge difference in that game. Because let's be real, LSU didn't play a bad game. Nussmeier was really sharp. He's found his guy in Keon Lacey. And at the end of the game, they brought Emory in. And I'm kind of shocked that they went away from the run game when it got rolling. I felt like that kind of hurt them. But on the flip side, Smoke, and I'm turning this over to you, you really kind of laid out why USC had retooled their defense and why they were going to pull off that win.
Well, shout out to Lincoln Riley for understanding who he is and knowing that he's a masterful mind of developing quarterbacks and be able to score points. But at some point, you have to stop the other team from scoring points as well, too. And I went back and watched the game, coach's copy. We have not seen USC's defense play this physical and this discipline with this much attitude and effort since Pete Carroll's days. D. Lynn, Doug Belt, they've done a tremendous job of teaching these guys how to play the game the right way. And I said, Grant is going to see stars, rainbows, ghosts, and goblins by the third or fourth quarter. And he's going to think the whole world is coming at him in a zero blitz, and they're going to drop eight. D. Lynn and Doug did an outstanding job of making that guy think he was seeing something pre-snap, post-snap was something else. And at the line of scrimmage, this is the first time, like I said, I've seen in almost a decade that you saw USC's defensive linemen strike, shed, disengage, knock guys back. There's several times that pullers was trying to get to the second level and was getting knocked off of their feet, not backwards. So, yes, it looked like a great offensive game on both sides, but the defensive coordinator for USC, Lincoln Riley, might just have him for a season. D'Anton Lynn is going to be one of the hottest names coming the cycle if they continuously keep on playing this way. And Doug Belt would be he'll continuously be a hot name in the offseason as well, too, as a young defensive coordinator. What they did at USC with LSU, and I get everybody to say, well, LSU didn't play. LSU played a good game. That game came down to one play at the end.
Absolutely.
But USC's back in terms of they keep playing defense like this. Someone's going to have to answer to them in the Big Ten.
They're going to be hell in the Big Ten. Yep. I agree wholeheartedly. Hannah, you said you got one more.
I got one more thing I'll shout about USC. Want to give one player credit, Miller Moss. Done something we haven't seen since Mac Jones, has waited his time. And I'm telling you what, I wish other players would realize that it takes 1 year, one season for him to make a name for himself at USC to become a player we talk about in the NFL draft combine. And it's what Mac Jones did. He waited his turn. And now I think we'll do the same thing in Miller Moss. So
I'll make a bold predicament. I said it last year that 6 quarterbacks were going to get drafted in the first round after watching the combine and going back and watching the season last year. This year's class of quarterbacks is going to be just as good, if not better, than last year's class. These young quarterbacks in college and even in high school, they're playing at a higher level than guys in my generation played due to 7-on-7 and just the overall evolution of football being played.
That's right.
Oh, I couldn't agree more, man. The quarterback play right now, and especially in the SEC, if you look across the board, was just and then look, I know they weren't playing a lot of great teams, but it doesn't matter. What you look for is execution in those games and how they play mentally, and the sharpness across the board in the SEC was just unbelievable. But yeah, Boston College is up 14-0. For all you guys out there that have Boston College plus 16.5. Woohoo! Okay.
I want you guys to roll the tape back. The same game plan that Georgia Tech did against Florida State is a rinse and repeat.
Yep.
I'm not watching the game right now, but I'm telling you, when I cut the tape on, you guys cut and watch it, same thing.
Bombs over Baghdad, Bill O'Brien is running it just like Georgia Tech.
If Florida State does not fix their issues, especially up front, it's going to be a long year for the ACC. It's a bad look.
Oh, ACC. We're going to get to the winners and losers. And
always crappy conference. That's the ACC.
That's a good seg to. We're about to get into the winners and losers, and I think we may be talking about them. But before we do, we got one more sponsor that we would like to give a little love to. And if you are headed to Titletown this weekend to Bryant-Denny Stadium to cheer on the Alabama to send the Middle Tennessee State Blue Raiders to a watery grave, Don't go empty-handed without your title towel. Let them know that you are the #1 Bama fan with your title towel. Get it today at whitwillsports.com. Tell them promo code standard. You may get a little discount. So, again, if you are headed to Bryant-Denny this weekend, please don't go empty-handed without your title towel. Look, these are one of our best supporters. Did I say something crazy?
No, it's a comment. Butt chin.
No, butt chin, Bob. Man, in the middle of my dude, that's my best Whitwill promo yet. Y'all doing stuff make me get crazy. Well, with that said, get your title towel today. Tell them promo code standard and get a little discount and wave that thing like you just don't care this coming Saturday when they inaugurate the Saban Field at Bryant-Denny. Boy, a long time coming.
Roll time.
All right. With that said, we're going to go into the football winners and losers. We got to do this quick, guys. We're 25 in. I know we got some cooking to do. College football winners this weekend. I think it's quite obvious. I'm going to start with we'll go with Smoke and then Hannah, and then I'll follow it up. Everybody give one.
Are we doing SEC or are we doing all teams?
We're just the winners of just winners. Whoever you think was a winner or a loser.
Okay. I'm going to give you my winner first. My winner is USC. My winner is USC for getting back and playing defense at that high level. Okay. Loser, ACC.
Yep.
Okay.
ACC.
All right.
Hannah?
All right. I'll take the obvious winner for me is going to be Alabama. I'm very impressed with this team defensively.
Great.
Keon Sabbs has tied already in the first game. Caleb Downs' complete interception rate last year. They both had 2. I think he's going to be better than Downs. We're going to see an incredible player out of him. I just wait on that. Wait, I'm just calling it. What?
Whatever you want to bet on that one, I'm taking it. But keep going.
Okay.
But
the reason I'm impressed, I give Alabama an A is because they started off a little shaky. Parker Brailsford had 1 bad snap, but regained composure, which we haven't seen from a center in a while. But overall, Alabama did well. Loser for me is going to be Florida. Because I think this is what has been an issue is Florida is becoming the next Texas A&M because they're running out of coaches. They're having coaches jump ship, trying to get new coaches. And I think they're realizing that they're running out of options, and you have to kind of sit back and realize what is going on. And I think a lot of it's going to be the NIL. You're paying players who are playing for the wrong reasons in Florida. They hate their own team. I mean, it's all over social media. For me, Florida's the biggest loser in the country. Don't even care about the score. It's how they had this much time to prepare at home and they got played out like that. That's a big, big red flag to me.
Okay. So Hannah, go ahead. Go ahead.
I'll let you comment on Hannah's, and I'll get my winner and losers.
No, you get your winners. I'm gonna comment at the end. Go ahead.
All right, my winner it's Notre Dame. They're now set up. Their schedule's an ice cream sandwich. The hardest 2 parts are on the top and the bottom. And they took out Texas A&M this weekend, and now they don't play anything till they get to the bottom, and that's at USC. They can lose 1 game and walk right into the playoffs. Biggest winner is Notre Dame might have just secured their spot in the playoffs this weekend. Biggest loser is the Ole Miss fans, because in a year that's going to be magical for them, they're now going to have to hear shit because Florida sucks so bad all year about, is Kiffin going to go to Florida? So it's just going to be that white noise all year in what should be a very exciting year for Ole Miss fans. That's kind of a joke.
Y'all are the most self-pitying fans I've ever met in my entire life.
Be one for 40-something years and then come at me. We don't have 37 national titles. Also, and look, LSU, losers of 5 straight on opening day. Sorry, guys, y'all are losers. With that, I know Smoke was ready to hop on some comments, but those are no winners and losers.
He's about to light me up.
No, so I have a Vandy helmet in my back because I worked at Vandy as director of scouting. And anyone that's paid me and I've worked with, I always have love for. Everybody knows if they cut me deep enough, I only bleed Clemson. Okay, now let's get back to this safety conversation with Keon and Caleb Downs. I'll tell you like this right now. The best safety in the Nick Saban era, and maybe the best safety of all time, skill set wise in Alabama history, Caleb Downs. If anybody wants to have that conversation with me, I know you do, Hannah. We can debate this all day.
We're only 1 game in.
You can be whatever game that you want to.
All right.
This guy has skill sets like Eric Berry when he cut the tape on.
Yeah.
Different conversation. Now, Notre Dame versus Texas A&M. Somebody bet me a case of water, coconut water. This is the one that I drink. That'll be you, Daniel.
Body Coco. I'm with you. I'm on it.
I'll see you in Tuscaloosa this weekend. and I can enjoy my coconut water. And time is only going to tell how many interceptions we have back there in the secondary.
Hey, listen, that's one reason I gave Alabama an A, because I haven't seen a defense like that since Deron Payne's era. Like, what would that have been? 2014, 2015? I mean, I like seeing some guys be fast off the line, stopping, like getting some sacks. I'm like, praise the Lord, we're giving them and not getting them. I was like, thank you, Jesus.
Our man Sports Talking with JB, who's on Sunday Night Talking Bama, says, yes, Florida's going to be terrible this season. Coach Prime will be there next year.
Good take. Good take. That's not, you're not far off.
Do you have any insight on that? I mean,
I don't have any insight. I'm just saying a Florida guy, Florida team, one of the better schools in college football, with a place that needs a spark. Who's a spark like Prime?
I think it depends how well he does at Colorado this year, though.
Lane Kiffin.
I really do. Because, I mean, they're showing
I don't want to say that.
First home game of the year against North Dakota State. I'm like.
Can I ask you a question? Football is about personnel.
Yep.
Are there two better football players on one team than Shador and Travis?
Well, I like to think Jalen and Hollywood, but we'll see. No. I know. I'm just saying.
No.
I said I like to say.
No.
Not close.
No, there's not.
Not close.
I'm trying to think about it, but I can't come up with two off the top of my head.
And in the state that Florida's in right now, NIL, fundraising, you need someone to bring back that roar in the swamp. Lane, maybe the best play caller in college football, but you need more than a coach to get the Florida Gator program back to Spurrier, Urban days. And I think there's one guy that when he walks into a building right now can generate that much attention and kids want to go play there. Yeah, that's Coach Prime. We can say whatever we want about him. But when the lights go on and you need excitement and you need something in your building other than a guy that's going to call plays, I don't think there's a Monster or Red Bull drink that give you that much surge of energy that Coach Prime gives you.
And it's hard to dispute. If you saw the stats of what he's done financially since he's arrived at Colorado, their sales are up 600%. I mean, Nike signing their quarterback to deals, that wouldn't happen. I mean, he's made them a household name, and they're not even really winning yet. So what could he do with the resources at a school like Florida? It'd be interesting to see. A very interesting take.
The last time we talked about Colorado, Cordell Stewart, Rashawn Salam,
Eric Bieniemy.
Eric Bieniemy now is a coach.
Yeah, that's right.
I was in middle school and high school when that was going on. So
that was fun times actually watching them too. All right. With that said, let's transition into one of our final topics. And what did we learn from week one? I mean, I know week one and it's going to be our next segment, is a prototypical overreaction because look, football, man, the man next to me can say that he can vouch for this better than anybody we know on this panel. Football's a long grind, and seasons, what you see at week one is generally not what you see by week 5, 6, 7, and especially week 10, 12. So I'll start with you, Hannah. What did you learn this week?
I learned that Texas A&M is overrated. I think that they're the overrated team of the SEC right now. I think we learned that Florida is Floridaing. Not really surprised there. We all call that situation. Well, we did. Petty didn't. Petty is okay. A little happy about that. But anyway, and I'll say this. I think we learned that you can never underestimate any team week one. Because look at what Vanderbilt did. Vanderbilt had the shock of the first week century. And I think it was a game that literally I can't find a single analyst anywhere besides myself that called Vanderbilt to win. So I just think that week one never disappoints, and I'm here for it. And, week one for Boston College, week 2 for FSU, still a showdown. And look, this is why I love college football. So I think we learned that there's still a lot to learn about college football. That's really what I do.
Great. Yeah, I love that. That's a good close on that, and I like that take. Smoke?
Yeah, what I've learned as a studying football over a long period of time is that we're moving in a new direction. We're moving in a direction that personnel counts a ton. And it's not about recruiting anymore. It's called acquiring the right talent and paying the right ones. And major schools that don't have a true general manager or personnel department, you are losing. Look at the teams that, say, 6 years ago. There's a guy in Clemson that beat Nick back-to-back in championship games when they played him twice. Yeah, that team does not look the same. Why? Because we're moving in the direction of general managers, personnel, acquiring talent, understanding what are the new trends. Florida not having a general manager. You see the hiccups under that. So understanding new trends, making sure that your general manager is as important as any one of your coordinators and is paid just like your coordinators. If you don't have that rolling and you want to consider yourself a top tier, top 5 school or top 10 school, and you don't have that in order and your personnel department not in order, not your recruiting department, the days of you showing a kid a good time and telling them that they're going to be whatever, them days are done. You better bring out the checkbook, a plan, a development in order, and how you can help them get to the next step of their life. Because if you're not doing that the right way, you're going to be stuck like Chuck with no luck. In week 1, you're going to look like that team that played against Vanderbilt. Hey,
let me turn my camera off. I got to let them in the house because I locked them in the house while I was on the podcast. I'll be right back.
Man, I hate because I'm Hannah's not going to be here for me to disagree with her Texas A&M take. I'll wait on. Oh, you can hear me? Okay, so I'm not sold. Or were you done, Smoke?
Yeah, I'm done.
I'm not sold Texas A&M's overrated. They were number 20 in the country. They were playing a quarterback who hadn't played since week 4 last year off a broken foot, who was really rusty. Now, I will say I expected Wagman looked like he played tight. He was very inaccurate. But they took the number 7 team in the country to the wire and was even in the game in the 4th quarter and was a play or two away. I'm not sold. I don't think they're going to be great. I don't think they're going to win the SEC, but I don't think that throws them in the overrated category either, considering they were in a dogfight into the 4th quarter with the 7th ranked team, a team that's probably going to be in the playoffs, mind you.
All right.
But what I'll say to add on what we learned is if you're an SEC fan that's wanting an at-large bid, those bids just shrunk. I'm sorry, unless an insane thing happens, this Notre Dame team's only going to lose max 1 game. They just probably secured themselves a spot in the playoffs. So if you're one of those, 4 or 5 SEC teams that are and we're going to get to that, looks like it's going to be a shootout in the SEC this year. You're fighting for an at-large bid, and those bids just got smaller. So what we learned is the SEC fight just got a little bit tighter and less room for error going forward.
Can I say one thing to counter?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Want to say a few reasons why I said week 1 A&M's overrated. They lost at home. They had to rely on their kicking game until after halftime. They didn't score a touchdown until the 4th quarter, and their starting quarterback had 0 touchdowns and 2 interceptions. That, for me, is very questionable, especially when you're playing at home. That's like a big deal. So that's the reason I said that, because we're talking about how good he is, and when you have the opportunity to have your first game of the season be at home hosting a big team, when you have the home of the 12th man and you lose by 10 points to Notre Dame, that to me is something to be a little skeptical about. But that's all.
Smoke, is there any room for a player that got injured the year before to have a little rust going into a big game?
Absolutely. So here I'm not going to totally disagree with you, Anna, but I'm going to say this. When you have a new coach, that means your team, you weren't good the year before. That's the reason why you got somebody in. Like Texas A&M is not a top school. Notre Dame is. Notre Dame's a top 10 school. So losing that by 10 points, first-time head coach, no matter if it's at home or away, that Notre Dame team is still better than Texas A&M by 10 points. Texas A&M lost their better players. They lost their best skill player to Oregon, the best defensive lineman, Walter Nolan. So you're asking a team to come back and play at a high level after losing a lot of their players. Now you have to get the stink of Jimbo Fisher off of you. So when you go into a program, you're just starting it. I've been a part of a couple of them. You have to do a good job of now rebooting that entire building. They have to buy in.
Sure.
And it's not as easy to buy in within months. Like Elko hasn't been there for a year. So he's still learning names. still learning personality, still learning skill set, still learning how to get around the building.
Sure.
And I know that as fans, we want to say, you got to get it right. You got to get it right. But it takes time to get things right. And coming out and playing against a top 10 team,
sure.
Yeah, that's not the recipe for the most success. So I would give them credit for battling Notre Dame. I thought they were going to get beat worse than that. But I think they'll be a 7 to 8 win team. And then you'll see what Elko pulls along next year. But I wouldn't. Go ahead.
Sure. I agree with you 100%. I guess I'm coming from an Alabama perspective, and Alabama fans would never, ever care if we lost every team on the roster and we had to rebuild the entire team and the coaching staff. We're not going to lose week 1.
I'm going to disagree with you again. Nick Saban's first year, they won 7 games?
Yeah.
76? And then he turns it around. So just the same as. And I mean, they lost to Louisiana Monroe.
Sure.
So it's.
But they did win the first game. That's my only point.
Yeah. Who was the first game against?
Western Carolina. I'm just saying. Hey, listen, I'm just saying it's the first game. I'm just saying.
Oh, okay. Look, and I want to. This will be a great seg because I know Hannah likes talking offense. She just mentioned Bama. I love this. I love y'all. I love the back and forth with this. This group is awesome because we are not a damn echo chamber. That's freaking sure. It's great. But overreactions, and I want to pose this question of an overreaction because you brought up Alabama. And there were a lot of weak teams. Are we overreacting to the offenses in the SEC and what we saw this week? I mean, what do we have? 4 teams win by 60-plus points, which has never happened in the SEC, and that's not including what happened on Thursday and Friday with Missouri and everybody else. But, I mean, Nico at Tennessee, good Lord. He was – I know they were playing Chattanooga, but if you
Nico's that good.
If you watched him hitting those seam routes, holy hell, that kid – I'm sorry, guys. I know the Bama Nation don't like hearing this one, but woo, Tennessee's got a kid slinging it right now, but not just Tennessee. Jaxson Dart threw for 418 yards, 5 touchdowns, and ran for another touchdown and didn't step foot on the field in the second half. I don't give a shit if you're playing air. That's unbelievable. Auburn, I mean, they put on a show down there. The offense looked better than any point that it did last year, regardless if they were playing the Sisters of the Poor. You know, again, what I mentioned to Smoke earlier, and Hannah, you can agree, disagree. One of the things you look for when you're playing the middle, these type of teams, the Western Kentuckys, and God, didn't even mention Alabama. We had to play Jalen Milroe into the third quarter just so we could see him throw a pass outside of the go because, you know, you have running backs rushing 4 times for 100 yards. Milroe had 80 yards rushing. I mean, they couldn't – it was such gash plays that we really didn't even get to run an offense until the freaking third quarter. So, again, I've kind of rambled on this because there was so much from so many different SEC teams. Are we overreacting to these offenses in the SEC? Smoke, Hannah, who wants to grab this?
Go ahead, Hannah. I'll let you get it first.
No, you go ahead. I can disagree with you for once.
I don't think you're disagreeing. I don't think it's an overreaction. I think it's the proper reaction.
Yeah.
College football is the Big Ten SEC Invitational. Everybody else is playing catch up.
Yeah.
So the better players, the SEC and the Big Ten has figured out the NIL landscape. And the SEC teams and the Big Ten teams are the ones that's getting the proper front offices and personnel departments lined up. So you're going to have better players. You're going to have better resources. And you're just seeing what the effects of that is. So just get ready. When the playoffs comes, you're going to have 12 teams, 8 of them, or maybe 9 of them are going to be represented by those 2 conferences.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say this. If there's 2 teams in the SEC that we're looking at, I think overreaction. Okay, what about an underreaction? I would say the underreaction is probably South Carolina. That literally only won the game because of Old Dominion's issues. So that, to me, is kind of a big deal. But, you know, the other team that people aren't really giving a lot of conversation about is Georgia. Georgia didn't really start playing offense until the second half. And their schedule that they have coming up is not going to allow for that, for them to have a slow start. So those are two teams I feel like a lot of shows are talking about. We haven't mentioned it. South Carolina barely beating Old Dominion, and also Georgia having a slow start against Clemson. I know it's Clemson. I know that's kind of a big deal, but Georgia Bulldog fans were, this is going to be a 75-0 game, and they had to squeak by their shoes until the second half. So
no, Hannah, I'm glad you brought that one up, because that's a great next reaction question I would like to ask you guys. Are we overreacting to Georgia's slow start? Should we give Clemson's defense a little more credit? Or is Georgia, I mean, when you're replacing McConkey and Bowers and those safety nets, it looked like he didn't have a safety net. And look, I know they were down there starting 2 running backs, which changes it up a little bit. But, I'll start with, are we overreacting to Georgia's sluggish start? But that defense, good God, man, that defense is lights out.
Clemson defense is real. Yeah. That their personnel is real. The issue with Clemson that we don't have time for, and we'll touch on at some point in the show, is their offensive line and their quarterback play. Yep. And what Clemson and Coach Sweeney is known for all his life of coaching is receiver and playmaker play. Yep. You don't see that on offense. Yep. So you can't sit there and hold the rope and battle with Georgia and play stagnant ball without putting points on the board. Georgia did what they had to do. So to me, Georgia didn't have their best weapons out there.
That's right.
So at the end of the day, you find a way to win.
Yep.
Now, you can't make excuses for winning a game poorly and thinking that you can play like this every single week. But they did what they had to do to get by and squeak by with it. I'm pretty sure Kirby's going to address that, but I don't believe this is the same offense that you're going to see from Georgia week from this point on.
I agree. I just want to say one thing. I think something that we're not talking a lot about is how Dabo Swinney shot himself in the foot by creating an entire offense against one quarterback, which is Trevor Lawrence. He's never recovered from that. He's never recovered from having Trevor Lawrence being the star quarterback. The team struggled. The team has 100% struggled. And, I think you look at the guys that have come into that program and left, especially DJ. I mean, look at what he's been able to do. So for me, I know I'm being sarcastic, but that was me being sarcastic. But I think one thing that is a question mark for Dabo Swinney is how, and you mentioned the offensive line and quarterback, great conversation there. But my other conversation can be like, what is it going to take for Dabo to re-recruit the type of players that he used to get? Because that is one of the big missing pieces. Is it's kind of like having a coach that's kind of getting some of the other players, or like the slim pickings, kind of the leftovers. What's it going to take for Dabo Swinney's recruiting class to be back to being the top? What does he have to do? Because his situation right now is not good, and he's on the hot seat. I give him 1 or 2 more seasons, and we're going to be having a coaching change in Clemson if he doesn't get turned around.
Can I answer that real quick, Smoke?
Go ahead.
Dabo's going to have to get out of 2010 recruiting. He's not adapting to the NIL. He's still living with that. If you've got a scholarship offer from another program, you can't visit Clemson. That's starting to cost him with kids now. Look, it worked at first and it caught dynamite, but he is not evolving in the NIL era whatsoever. Right. And sorry, if you don't evolve or you refuse to, it's going to eat you up.
Well, Coach Sweeney's like a big uncle to me. Yeah. So I would say this.
He's a good man. I'm not bashing him.
It's no bashing. It's 1,000% truth. I've had this conversation with him. I'll say it again. I might know a guy that can help you structure your team in a proper way. I might know one. Just give me a call. Simple as that.
We need to tag him. We need to clip that and tag him on X.
I don't need to tag him. All I got to do is reach out and touch him. We talk.
Okay, so you had a conversation with Dabo Swinney. I'm sorry. This show's going to have to go if I can get conversations like this going. What was Dabo's response? I mean, because I feel like he's been very stubborn in changing. Was he responsive to what you were telling him?
Well, a lot of people say that he hasn't caught on to NIL and the transfer portal. I don't think that's 100% correct.
Sure.
And I think when people make blanket statements that you got to get active in the transfer portal, I think you use the transfer portal to help fill in gaps that you need on your team. I don't believe that you can solely build your team off the transfer portal. Yeah. Because there's things that you're going to bring in your building that you don't necessarily want. Players that are transferring aren't necessarily the best ones. So again, I would always say you have to do your research, you have to evaluate, and you have to get the best fit and pay the players the right
That's
one,
right.
not just anyone, the right one.
Saban
Yes,
said
he
that this
understands
weekend.
NIL. 1 second. Yes, he understands NIL. Yes, he
Yeah.
understands the transfer portal. But again, when you have built a program by yourself in your own way, and
Yep.
you've won national championships,
Yep.
it's hard to say, you know what?
Yep.
I'm scrapping and going somewhere new. That's where you have your right-hand person that you trust in terms of understanding what the landscape and the evolution of college football has become.
Yep.
To sit there now and advise you, instruct you, help you
Yep.
with this train that you have going. I think if he wants to win at Clemson, I think it can happen. Does he need to
I agree.
retool the way that he's doing things? Absolutely. But I don't think you can just make blanket statements and just say, well, he needs to get an NIL and transfer portal. I think there's a strategy. And the ones that are using this as a strategy have been successful. The ones that's gone blanket and just paid, Miami tried that. It didn't work.
That's
they
right.
paid the right one, Cam Ward. Texas A&M tried to do that. It didn't work. They
Florida
have a new
too. It ain't working.
Florida tried to do it. It didn't work. Guys aren't getting paid. So you have to pay the right person. You have to get the right general manager in your building to structure your team and build your roster the proper way, year in and year out, because the ages and the days of having your team 3 to 4 years, every single year you have a new team. And that does not need to fall on the shoulders of coaches. It needs to fall on the shoulders of experts of what they do. And if you're a team builder, you build your team. If you're a coach, coach. If you're a head coach, coach the team. You're not a play caller.
That's right.
So
I got two. Can I add two things to that? Then I'll shut up.
Yeah, well, I think one thing, I think Saban kind of summed that up this weekend on game day when he said, you can pay $20 million all you want. You guys keep talking about it, but if you don't pay the right guys, you're shit out of luck.
And he didn't figure out who to pay. So he got out the game.
That's right.
And what were you going to add?
Two things. I think you mentioned the word coaching and adapting. That's one reason that Les Miles was booted out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, because he didn't know how to adapt and evolve with the game of college football. He was old school, set in his ways, and wasn't willing to change. The other thing I was going to say, and I didn't get to mention this earlier, I wanted to. One thing that I saw on Saturday in Tuscaloosa that I haven't seen in a long time was hype energy. I know it had a lot to do with the coordinators being on the sidelines and not in the booth, but also getting to see those players play the way they did, getting to celebrate. We've missed that. So I am so pumped for the season. And for me, the energy, not just in Tuscaloosa, but on that sideline was something that we haven't seen since probably 2011, 2012, maybe a little later than that. And I've missed that, and it's so good to see it again.
Okay. I feel like this team does really care about each other and love each other. With that said, last overreaction that kind of parlays on the Georgia, and then we will give some love to the following up shows. I think we got a big guest coming up on the Bama Standard Tuesday, and then we got a big show Friday night. But are we overreacting to teams like Michigan? You know, we talked about Georgia starting out slow, but hell, out of the gate, Ohio State.
Hey guys, I gotta go.
All right, Hannah, have a good Labor Day. Go kick their ass in some football.
Thank you. See ya.
Smoke, we'll finish this up real quick because I did want to talk about it in case we have any fans, and we're trying to grow these fans and talk about these other people. But are we overreacting on a national level to teams like Michigan, Ohio State, Oregon, who started out sloppy? They turned it on late, but I have an answer. I feel like this is almost self-explanatory, but do you feel like that's
yeah, I think that week one overreaction, absolutely. I think all three of those teams are going to be perfectly fine. They came away with a win, and good teams build. All those teams, I believe, have real good coaches, good players. I mean, Michigan, for Christ's sake, they just came off winning a national championship. There's a little bit championship layover that might happen. Oregon is going to be perfectly fine. I just don't think people understand that you're not going to go out there and beat everyone 60-0. I mean, they play as well too. You're just trying to come away healthy with things to coach up on and ways to build on your team in order to get better for the next week.
And I agree. And look, I think a great example is look at Texas last year. I think, and Justin pointed this out in the chat we had. our producer, that, Texas struggled against Rice greatly, and everybody just perfect overreaction. Well, Texas ain't got much, and then they just went on quite a little run after that onto the playoffs. So week one, you're gonna come out. There's gonna be rust at times, even for the best of teams, and you're a lot of new pieces that you're trying to get in the flow of the game that may take a minute. But look, if you didn't see that receiver at Ohio State, they've got the next guy in Smith. I mean, that kid is unfreaking believable. A lot of good players out there. Yeah, I think that's an absolute overreaction. But, man, if you're not checking out the show, Smoke, man, the stuff you're bringing with the conversations like Dabo Swinney and stuff, we really need to dig into these guys that you talk to, because, man, you've got some insights that's going on. Again, I'm a lay fan by most stretches. I do have a lot of connections in the end, but not to your level. And from an outsider's perspective, it looks like Dabo is kind of sticking his head in. I'm only going to recruit high school kids and do it the way I did to build it originally. And it does seem like he's avoiding the NIL, not completely, but to the way that other programs have bought into it. And for you to be able to give that behind the scenes talk with Dabo and say, man, this is actually what's going on, man, that's just absolute gold. And I love having you on to talk about that stuff, Smoke. But with that said, man, I'm going to promote some of our other shows, talk about, you can pump yourself a little bit, which I know you're not a big fan of. You ain't figured it out. This is one humble
you know what I really want to get to after we promo our show? I want to get to about 4 or 5 really good questions. I see a lot of these.
Okay. Yeah. Justin, you got some questions pulled up for us that I may have before we promo shows. What did you see, Smoke?
Let me see. Which one did I see that was really good? Go ahead and promo the show,
I'll promote. Hey, Smoke's gonna look for some of y'all's good questions. Sorry, I was not starring them as they went along. There's a lot going on tonight. My man Justin was a little behind the scenes. So, yes, Tuesday. Hey, check out our other shows. We're going into Middle Tennessee State week. It's time to break down the Blue Raiders, and how to do that better than starting it off with the flagship program at 7 p.m. Are y'all 7 Central? It is 7. I'm 9, right? God, I can't ever get that. Is it 6 or 6? Justin, nod at me. 6 Central, 7 Eastern. I'm in the Eastern time zone. I still screwed up. 6 Central, 7 Eastern. Flagship, the Bama Standard, headlined by Justin Riley, my boy Smoke over here, Marvin Constant, Stephen M. Smith, Steve Brown, the comedian, and this week, very special guest, former Bama defensive end, Wallace Gilberry, freaking stud in the house. You do not want to miss that very special episode. And then stay tuned an hour later, after that show ends at 8 Central, 9 Eastern for the final whistle. And you'll see my pretty face again with my boys, Matt Goodell, Chris James, Lushawn Graves, Dan James. We got a great show. We're going to get you pumped up for Middle Tennessee State. And then we roll into Wednesday. We got the Crimson Dynasty at 6:30. And then followed an hour after that, we got Teague's Take. Man, if you ain't watching George Teague break down a film, you are missing out. And also Crimson Dynasty, Sishi, Dan James, and our girl Hannah that was on with us later are going to be dropping it. And then Friday night, back with us, the same crew, the Red Zone. Well, I say that. No, we're going to be at the Bryant Museum. So this show may be on hold for 1 week. We're going to have to take a hiatus because we kind of got a big thing coming up. Bryant Museum, Friday night at 6 Central. Come on, man. We got Jake Coker. We got Blake Sims possibly being in the house. We got Landon Collins. We got my man Gerald Smoke Dixon that will be live there. Marvin Constant's going to be working patrol with all them muscles and doing push-ups and growling at folks and hugging the babies and kissing the wives. Steve Brown's going to be telling jokes. Justin Riley's going to be keeping all these knuckleheads in line. So do not miss it. Friday night, live YouTube show from the Bryant Museum, heading into this huge weekend with Middle Tennessee State, where we are dedicating the field to the GOAT, Nick Saban. With that said, I think Smoke found a few questions, and I've rambled enough so we can go get them out. Smoke wanted to answer them. Legit question: what is Clemson's financial situation? Any serious funding? And again, Smoke, this is all you, buddy.
I don't think there's any serious funding with Clemson. It's just understanding how you allocating your funds. And Coach Swinney does it right. You want to be able to pay the players that are on your team. Because when you start paying players more that are newcomers on your team, it now ruins your locker room. So, like Nick Saban said on Saturday, it's paying the right ones. Because if you pay the right ones, they're going to come in They're going to establish themselves. They're going to make plays. The worst thing you can do is pay a player and he can't play. Now that ruins your locker room. So again, it's hard for coaches to understand that because coaches coach. There are some coaches and they're unicorns that can evaluate and coach, but there are far and few. So again, I always say allocate someone to take care of NIL structure, general manager to take care of the personnel, get them together with the head coach in one room and make the proper decision.
Great answer, man. Great answer. This smoke. You bring the damn smoke. All right, we got our man Jeff Stapleton. UGA had to open up their pocketbook to beat Clemson. It exposed Kirby. You can bet DeBoer will use this against Kirby. You got a take on this, Smoke?
I don't think they open up their playbook. I mean, when you go into
playbook, I said pocketbook, playbook. My bad, Freudian slip.
When you go into a football game, your job is to win. So Clemson's defense, like personnel-wise, they're very good. Wesley does a pretty good job of calling that defense. So, yes, you have to go into your bags in order to come out with a victory. And that's what they did. So you can't just go in there and run student body right, student body left, pop pass here, three-step there. You have to show teams something different for preparation. And when you look at games, and I'll take it from the coaching point of view when I was a coach, if I was up, I always wanted to show my opponent something to get prepared for. So you're just throwing out things out there so they have to get one more play to get ready for it. It's a trick play. Say, you know what? Throw that trick play out there just so that this team wastes his time practicing that. So it's not that they open up their playbook. The playbook's already open. You're just now picking plays. And most good coordinators, Mike Bobo's a good one. He's not grabbing plays that they didn't practice or prepared for that situation, for that look that they got.
There you go. I Smoke has spoken. I also need to apologize to Bama fan base for the Freudian slip. I've been saying Bama's playing Middle Tennessee State this weekend. I've said it a few times. We're playing USF. I live in damn Tampa. It's the team in my backyard. My daughter goes to USF.
Oh, man. Write an extra check.
Yeah. So where's we're kind of like the round the table. We need the guy at the end to fact check. Petty, you didn't even get the damn right team. Ole Miss is actually playing Middle Tennessee State. Don't shoot the hat. See, I'm half Rebel, half Bama. It breaks my brain at times, and I get the
Fighting
call.
Derek Masons.
The Fighting Derek Masons. Man, Derek's a good guy. I hope he's not a bad coach.
We hope you don't win this week. That's what you want to say.
That's what I say. So, Bama fans, I'm sorry. I'm an idiot. Y'all are playing South Florida, and it's a revenge game from last year. Ole Miss is playing Middle Tennessee State. Got it right. With that said, man, it has been a fantastic show, Smoke. Want to make sure we have given love to all the shows. I especially want to give another shout out to Jimmy Clay for all the super chats. Jimmy Clay, I cannot wait to see you Friday night at the Bryant Museum. Love you, brother. And love all you guys. Thank y'all for coming out on a Labor Day. I know it's a holiday. I know you're with family. I know it's hard to pull away, but we had a good old crowd come out tonight and talk a little football. I've got to get
my coconut wood. I got to stay hydrated in Tuscaloosa. For
my man. With that said, I'm going to promote my socials. You can check me out on Twitter at Petty_Daniel. Check me out on Facebook at Daniel Pettey. And that's pretty much, and I'm all the other socials. You can find me, the name spelled the same. And again, you can catch me here on Mondays and Fridays. Catch me on the Final Whistle on Tuesdays. Smoke.
You catch me on Coach GV Dixon on all my social X and on Instagram. You know what? I'm going to have a special guest with me this weekend. I'm taking my son, Trey, with me. Down to Bryant Museum. He's gonna bring. Oh man, he's gonna bring.
I can't wait to meet him, man. Can't wait to meet him. So with that said, I'm excited, and we'll end this on this note. Again, thank y'all, Chris. Yeah, we'll spend a few minutes on Auburn right now.
That's the bottom line. Why? Because Stone Cold said so.